This last week, I decided, kind of spur of the moment, that this would be the week I would finally tackle my daughter's room. And there have been so many things that I've been kind of putting off over the summer that I've really wanted to get done, just because we've been really busy. Every summer is so busy. But I gave myself a week to just work on these different projects in my spare moments throughout the day when I had a little bit of extra time, so I wouldn't have to get so far behind trying to do them all in a day. And I'm really happy with how they all turned out. So I decided I should probably tackle the biggest project first, which was this dresser. And I've been wanting to fix up this dresser ever since we first bought it, which we actually got it right before our wedding. It's sturdy, it's well made, it has good memories, but I hate the look of it. I hate the handles in particular. They're so ugly. So I really wanted to update it and give it a bit of a modern look, but keep the sturdy frame, the sturdy bones, and the beautiful mirror. The first thing I did was to take off all the handles, and I was so happy to chuck those in the trash. And then the next thing that I did is use a really rough sandpaper to sand off all the paint. And I was surprised because in my last DIY video where I did furniture, it took so long to sand off all this paint. And I think this wood was much softer because it was actually pretty quick, which was such a relief. So I wanted to give this dresser a real modern look with the wooden drawers and the white frame. Oh, there are all my to-do lists I taped on the mirror to keep off the paint. But I highly recommend, if you're going to paint any of your furniture, or even if you paint your walls, that you don't use a flat paint. And the reason for that is because if you have little kids like I do, fingerprints are impossible to wipe off of flat paint, at least in my experience. And so the things I've redone in the past look dirty right away afterward because they're impossible to wipe down. And so I do recommend using somewhat of a glossy paint. I used a semi-gloss when painting furniture, especially if it's white, because if not, you'll probably have a lot of fingerprints and a lot of dirt that will be really hard to get off. So one of the things I wanted to do with this furniture was make it all look kind of more like a set. All of these things I've bought at thrift stores, they've been given to me used, and I wanted to make them all have a similar appearance. And so the next thing I had was this little cute shelf that I ended up using the same spray paint and painting. I used a total of 6 cans of spray paint, but it was so worth it. It was my main expense. But spray paint is like the easiest way to give something a total makeover with not a ton of effort and not a ton of money. I think it's one of the easiest things to use to really upgrade a room. I also had this little clear plastic lamp that just looks kind of cheap that I ended up spray painting as well, and it turned out great, and I love that it matched everything else in the room, and it cost, less than $1 to redo it, which is pretty unbeatable. The next big thing that I had that I wanted to give a makeover was this rocking chair, and I absolutely love it. It's comfy. Carrie and I love sitting in it to read a good book, but it's just starting to look really worn. And so I used the same spray paint I used before. It was so rough, I didn't end up sanding it, and I think it'll probably be fine. But I gave it a total makeover as well, and that way all the furniture now, except for the crib, matches in Carrie's room, which makes it look like it was almost all made to be that way and like it was made to be a set, which I think is really fun. Alright, now that all the painting is done, I used this cutting board oil, which is one of my favorite oils to use on furniture, to polish up all the wood that I had kind of stressed out by sanding down, and that just brings so much color into the wood, and it makes it so I don't even stain it. And if you've seen my last DIY video, you've seen this as well. This is the same type of look that I did on that desk that I did up in my husband and I's room, and I just love this look. It's so pretty to me, and I love that it's really natural. Next, I'm going to show you how to make the cutest handles in the world, and they're so incredibly cheap. All you're going to need is some rope, and if you want to use some wooden beads. Now, the thing that you're going to want to make sure is that the rope needs to be small enough to get through the screw holes in your drawers, or else you're going to have to drill the holes out a little bit bigger. But what I do next is that I actually make a knot so that I can pull it through the screw hole, and I'll show you how to do that. Real quickly, I want to show you the best knot I've discovered to do to really secure these beads so that your whole handle doesn't come off. So you're going to want
a lot of string. And you're going to take it, wrap it around your finger, and you're going to loop the knot through the hole 4 to 6 times, okay? So I've done it 2, 3, 4, let's do it once more, 5, okay? So you've wrapped it around the loop 5 times, and then you're gonna pull it tight, and it will it's gonna be really hard to get it very tight. So to make this knot really secure and really large so it doesn't come through the hole of the drawer, I just tie it again just once, and it pulls all of those loops together and creates this really big knot that can't easily go through the drawer holes. So in my opinion, that's the best way that I've discovered so far.
So after you've made that big knot on one end of a 12 to 14 inch piece of rope, then I used a crochet hook, or actually I used a makeup brush, to push the rope through the screw hole. Next, you're just going to pull it out of the hole, and then you're going to I used a crochet hook as well, or else a makeup brush, to actually push the beads onto the rope. And I use the beads almost just to add more style and to make it a little bit easier to pull out the drawers, but you really don't even have to have the beads at this point. You can just use the rope if you want to. So if you are using beads as part of your handle, after you've put on however many you want, I did 3 on these drawers, then you're going to push the rope back through the second hole in the front of the dresser and tie a very large knot in the hole in the back of the dresser to be sure that when you're tugging on your handles, pulling the drawer open, the knots don't come back through the screw holes, because if they do, your knots weren't big enough. And so I ended up pulling on a couple of mine, and actually the knots weren't large enough, so I had to retie some of them and make the knots bigger. But so far I've had great success since doing these now, and I absolutely love how these turned out. They're so cute, and my daughter loves them too. She thinks they are the funnest drawer handles in the world, and the entire thing cost me like $5. To finish up her room, I put a few of these pothos plants that I'm propagating in this little glass jar, and I love the way that green adds life to a room, and so I'm really happy with how this turned out. I'll link down below some other videos on decorating and some other videos on some furniture DIYs that I've done. I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it inspiring, maybe gave you some ideas on how to save money but still upgrade a room and make it more modernized. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Oh, and by the way, Carrie does love her room as well.